I'd just rather see them get rid of the kickoff altogether. And then someone's going to say, but what about the onside kick? How many onside kicks are there in the season? In all honesty, 7, maybe? And how many of those are successful? 1. It's not going to work. You don't need it.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Hot Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Top Shelf Tuesday edition, NFL rule changes are coming. We're also going to analyze off-season moves from teams, so this should be fun. With us today, we've got Mike Connors with us, our favorite teacher of the month every month, and Captain for Life, Will Cotton, is joining us. Gentlemen, the owners are scheduled to meet March 30th through April 2nd in West Palm Beach, Florida. Nobody ever has these meetings in like Butte, Montana for some strange reason. And they have some proposed rule changes. So I'd like to get your thoughts on each proposed rule change that we will discuss. The first one is the kickoff rule. So the NFL operations group and the competition committee, they keep messing with the kickoff. So after moving the touchback line to the 25-yard line, then to the 30, the NFL is now proposing to move it an additional 5 to 35-yard line to encourage fewer kicks into the end zone, thus having more returns. There wasn't even a kickoff return in the Super Bowl. Mike, you're an old football coach. What do you think about the proposed kickoff rule, or why do we keep messing with the kickoff? What do you think?
I don't understand why they keep messing with this. I mean, originally they wanted to shorten it so that you didn't have 280-pound men getting a 40-yard head start and then knocking the head off of some 120-pound return man. But now they seem to want to do everything they can to make sure that these guys return the balls get hit. I mean, I thought that was the whole point of the touchback, was to keep kids from getting injured. But they keep changing the rules, and it doesn't seem to make sense. They can't get out of their own way with this. I mean, you move the line up to where they run from, and they can't run until the ball's kicked, but they're still getting a 25-yard head start on hit them. I'd just rather see them get rid of the kickoff altogether. And then someone's going to say, but what about the onside kick? How many onside kicks are there in the season? In all honesty, 7, maybe? And how many of those are successful? 1. It's not going to work. You don't need it. Play better defense.
Okay. Will, you're a player, and you see how they line up, stole that from the XFL or something. What do you think, man? Make a change again to increase the number of kickoffs, or do nothing?
Well, I have to agree, Mike, on 2 parts. I say, 1, you're really taking a lot of guys' skill set out of the game. If everyone remembers, Dante Hall,
Steve Tasker, baby, Steve Tasker.
Guys would impact the game off kickoffs and punts. You know, that's how they get into the Hall of Fame for really a lot of time.
Devin Hester.
Devin Hester. I mean, the guys that and change the game. You know, you also have guys who are special team players who get bonuses and all pro for stuff like that. And if they're just everything's going to be a kickoff, then there's less tackles for me. There's less there's less money. So, and the second thing is the NFL loves to implement rules without really testing it and really saying, let's get like a couple years worth of data and say, is this really worth it? Is it working? Is it not working? Do we need to move it or change it? It just seems like the last 10 years or so, everybody just they say, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to do it right now. And you don't train anybody to see it. You don't have actual players who are like, hey, the competition
committee.
Committee, yeah, they're like, oh well, this ain't go. You don't bring them in and say, hey, is this working for us? They're just kind of doing things on their own, and this is what they're getting now. The product is strong, so I guess you can kind of do what you want. But the one of the biggest knock against the NFL is the officiating and just the lack of silly rules that we have. So they need to clean it up.
All right, so the Detroit Lions made a proposal. They're public in this. Winner takes all. So the Detroit Lions have proposed a significant NFL playoff seeding rule change that would largely use regular season records as the guiding principles rather than division championships, according to a list of rule changes released last week. Under the proposal, the division winner with the conference best record would still receive the number one overall seed. But after that, teams would be stacked by records, regardless of whether they won their division or received wild card berths. And if that approach happens, it would have a high effect on teams like the Lions and the other teams in the highly competitive NFC North last year, where the Vikings made it and the Packers made it. Vikings was 14-3, Packers were 11-6. Chargers made a proposal like this in 2023, but it didn't receive much support. Will, what do you think about that, man?
I'm not with it, man. You gotta beat who you gotta beat. And if you're truly a champion, then you go out and you beat who you gotta beat. I think it's kind of funny that Detroit does that, because quietly, I think Detroit knew they were like, man, we can either play the Minnesota Vikings who are struggling right now, or we could get the hot, the hot Commanders coming into Detroit, and then they lost. Now, if they switch it up, they wouldn't have played the Commanders most likely, because the Commanders would have played into Minnesota, and it would have, out of doubt, it would have happened. It would have happened. But you gotta win. You gotta beat what you gotta beat, man. If you're a 13 and 14-2, 14-2 team, and you're going against a 9-7 team, I don't care where you're going. You should beat them. It should be behind the Toys R Us field. They could be anywhere. You should they're crying a lot, man, and making excuses. Go win, man. Go get the win. If you're good, you're not worried about the 10-6 team with it playing at home. No, go beat them because you're better. So,
okay. All right, Connors, what do you think, man?
I disagree with Will. I think that we should be stacking it by record. Just because you're a 6-10 team and you won a pathetic division, you should not get a home game. You shouldn't. It's like a wrestling seating meeting. Who's got the best record? Okay, they're tied head to head. Who won? We're going to go with him. Now we're just going to stack it on who beat who. Okay, you still make the playoffs as a division champion, but you just don't get a home game if you haven't earned it. That stacks better teams and gives them the reward that a bad team that's in a bad division, let's just think AFC South, that they should not get a home game just because they won that pathetic division, whereas a team like the Vikings that won 14 games have to go on the road to somewhere else. Doesn't make sense to me.
Okay. All right, Mike, I'm going with you for this one. The tush push. As previously reported, they're trying to ban this short yardage play that the Eagles have used to perfection. This has been submitted by the Green Bay Packers. The rule would prevent players from pushing a teammate that is lined up directly behind the snapper and receives the snap immediately at the snap. Mike, what do you think, sir?
I think they can't stop it, so they're crying about it. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the play. I grew up playing center on the offensive line and had my head shoved up my butt so many times by people running up the back of me that I can't even count it. But that being said, once they allowed linemen and other players to push a person with the ball, whether it be a running back or a wide receiver, they took all the guards, all the rules off of that. Where now that if you can't push someone, you can't push anyone. You can't just say, oh, well, this guy got a running start behind the quarterback. He shouldn't be allowed to push him. Now, I don't care for the play, but you can't just make that one illegal. If you're going to make pushing a player illegal, you have to make it across the board. You can't pick and choose, because then you put it at the discretion of the officials again. So a wide receiver does a 40-yard out, catches the ball, and some offensive lineman rambles down and then pushes him from behind. Was he lined up behind him at any point? Who knows? So you can't. It just makes too much human error possible.
Okay. God, man, tush push, ban it or keep it?
You got to keep it. I mean, unless it was, keep it. If you can't stop it, then you can't. The only way that you can stop it is if somebody goes out and starts stopping it. It can't be policy. It can't be like, oh, we can't do this no more. That's like, I'm not with it, man. Stop it, because there are 31 other teams who will not be able to do this. You know what I'm saying? But also on the flip, like most of the time, if you're on that like 2-3 line before the goal line, I mean, most of these guys do a sneak anyway, or some kind of push anyway. Like everyone does it. So I guess, if you win, it makes it looks a little sexier, so everyone's all upset about it. So,
or what they're going to do is like what Clemson would do back in the day. You put Christian Wilkinson, a 340 pound defensive lineman who is athletic as hell, who we have a ton of in the league now, and you put him behind there and you let him just barrel in. That doesn't do anybody any good. But that's
Chicago tried that, and they cost them the game against the Commanders.
Well, they also did it with Refrigerator Perry for 10 years, and it worked every time.
They won a Super
Hey,
Bowl,
I'm still mad that Peyton didn't get his touchdown, so don't get me going with that.
I agree 100%.
I'm old on that one.
But just think about it. They hand off to someone like a Dexter Lawrence Dexter Lawrence with the Giants, who was 360 and very athletic. And he's not got to run far. He's just got to go forward. I mean, that's the same math. So it's just stupid. Yeah, it's just I can't stop this. I don't know how to. So you can't do it. I'm gonna take my ball and I'm gonna go home.
Yeah.
All right. Last one. Go ahead, Will.
And they also built their offensive line for it. Like I think we went into the Super Bowl. They saw like their offensive line is like one of the biggest offensive lines in the NFL. And I'm like, if you want to do it, you're going to have to get the big guys. So, I mean, you can't be upset at you can't hate it. Can't hate on it, man. Can't hate on it.
All right. Last one. Update of the overtime rule. A submission by the Philadelphia Eagles wants to give both teams a guaranteed possession in overtime during the regular season, aligning with current rules for playoff games. Will, should that happen for the regular season?
No. I mean, I would say because it would extend the NFL overtime for most NFL fans. It's like, hey, we get one chance. Okay, we get another chance. So I don't mind that. But I do think that, hey, man, if I get the ball and your D lineman, he's making $35 million. If your cornerback is making, $25 million, if you got a safety that's making $15 million, yeah, you got to stop him. You got to stop them. It's just part of, what you have to do, So I'm kind of like 50-50 on it. But I suggest that, either way, if we're getting no time, we're winning. I don't think we should mess with it. So I just leave it alone what it is.
All right. Mike, do we change the overtime rule for the regular season?
No. That's it. No, but if they're going to change it, you can't change it to, we kick the ball off, and if you score, then we get the ball back. If you're going to change it, go to the way college does it. Each team gets the ball on the 25-yard line, and if you get a first down, you get 4 more downs, and then you can try to score. If not, you kick a field goal, because that takes the guesswork out of it. If you're going to try to run it like a normal game, you got to run it like a normal game. If the team scores a touchdown, it's over. But if you want each team to have equal opportunities, truly equal, you have to do what college does. Give them the ball in the 25 and you go. Whatever happens in your outcome, the other team gets a chance to match. That's equal opportunity, if that's what you want. Now, that's crap, in my opinion, for the pros, but this proposed change is garbage as well. But if you want it to be equal, that's what you have to do. Otherwise, stop crying. You still have your tush push. I don't want to hear it.
All right, Mike, remember the visual about equal and equity with the little boxes?
Yes.
Is that where we?
Oh, yeah. Yes, that's where we're going to go now. And yes, we're going to, and then we all have to hug afterwards because we can't hurt anyone's feelings, so.
Retreat.
It's just, come on. It's football. These guys make $1 gazillion.
All right. So, fans, when we get back on the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 2, we're going to start taking deep dives in some off-season moves and see what our panel thinks. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CK Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. All right, let's talk about the individual teams, and we're going to start with Cincinnati first. Will, I'm going to go to you. You can't throw on your back. The Cincinnati Bengals announced some re-signing. They signed Jamar Chase, 4 years, $161 million with $112 million guaranteed. And wide receiver T. Higgins got 4 years, $115 million. You also got Joe Burrow back there. But are they going to win anything, Will? They got no line, and you can't throw on your back. And I hear the defensive guy that's really good. They're not going to pay him, so he might leave. What are your thoughts on Cincinnati's offseason, Will?
Oh, it looks like everything what Joe Burrow needed to do. If you're not going to pay me, well, all right, well, I'm going to set myself up so that I'm going to have the bag, because when it's time to, I'm going to have the stats, and then when I leave, you'll have 2 expensive assets that are going to be hard to trade, especially for something back on that. They're basically all in on their offensive, but the crazy thing is they don't have an offensive line. So you can't be all in on the offense, can you? They have a pretty good running back. For Carson, I believe his name is. I want to say, I forgot it. But yeah, you have Chase, obviously. You have Higgins. I think they had a really good tight end who was pretty good doing his thing. But you can't. Burrow has a history of being injured. 2, you can't win with your quarterback getting hit anyway. So we'll see what they try to do. I'm sure they'll try and make an offensive line. But again, if you can't run the ball, if you can't stop the blitz or the pressure, you're not going to win much. So,
all right, Connors, what are we doing in Cincinnati, man?
We're building a human highlight reel, but it might not get off the ground. The Eagles, great offensive line, Super Bowl champions. The Kansas City Chiefs, very good offensive line, have been there the last couple of years. The New York Giants, poo-poo offensive line, won 3 games. You can have all the tools you want, but like you said, you can't throw off your back. So unless they use a lot of draft picks and try to go the route of building a young line on rookie contracts and some free agent diamonds in the rough, I don't understand that. I can see paying one of the receivers in all honesty, but both of them, that's just a huge financial hit. And I don't know their ownership's philosophy or their ownership, unless they have more money than God and are willing to pay any penalties if they go over that. I don't even know if that's an option, to be honest with you, these days. I can't even keep up with all the contract changes and stuff like that. But I just don't understand it.
All right.
But also, and then with the contract, I was surprised that they paid T. Higgins when he accepted the franchise. If he accepted the franchise tag, then you at least had a little bit of money that you can win in and be like, all right, well, let me get some vets or some guys expiring contracts. Maybe I can swap some things, do what I got to do. But they did it kind of a year earlier than they should, and they really didn't have to. And to kind of put them on, kind of set themselves up. But, we'll get all these highlights, man, and get Joe Burrow in your fantasy lineup.
Can't throw on your back. All right, Connors, I'm going to come to you for this because you brought it up in Cincinnati, but San Francisco's public about it. They're building through the draft. Following the first season in which they missed the playoffs in 4 years, they lost a lot of players on purpose, and general manager John Lynch says the team has a plan and some big things are coming our way, and that plan is building through the draft. So, Mike, you got Brock Purdy about to get paid, so you can't have the cheap quarterback on the rookie deal. So you got to get rid of all of this expensive stuff. What do you think about the 49ers plan to build through the draft?
That's if they keep Brock Purdy.
Ooh.
If they keep Brock Purdy. Next, you have to remember, this year's NFL quarterback draft is not a great one. Next year's is a very good one. There is a lot of quarterbacks coming out next year. Maybe they see someone in that draft that they feel they can get, or a couple of people that they think could fit their system. Their coach, Shanahan, is a great coach. He knows how to work with pieces. He can adjust his scheme to the pieces he has. He's not one of these guys set in stone. This is what we do. We do A, B, C, and D, and that's all we do because I'm the guy. So he can maybe work with a few different things, use Purdy for another year. There's, and then build through the draft. Maybe that's what they're saying by build through the draft. I'm not sure. But Lynch seems to have done a very good job. San Francisco historically is a destination that does very well, both in free agency and in building inner talent. I mean, back in the 90s, they were a huge franchise. They're not a historically bad franchise where someone's like, oh, just don't send me to the Cleveland Browns or something along those lines. If someone said you're going to be drafted by San Francisco, 9 out of 10 players would be like, ooh, okay, that might not have been my first choice, but that's not a bad situation to be in. So I think they've earned the right to come up with their plan and do it, and they don't have to do it the conventional way. If they're coming out right now and saying, we're not doing free agency, we're doing draft, maybe they're going to be trendsetters here.
All right. So Will, our boy, cares about this, and fans, our boy is following Campbell, who's a legitimate San Francisco 49er fan. What do you think about them building through the draft, sir?
Well, I think that's the smart way to do it. I think if you're going to say, hey, we know our coach is going to be here, we know our GM is going to be here, we know our philosophy, we know how we build for that, why not keep that intact and start earlier and get ahead of all the nonsense? And then it becomes, do we have to get rid of Shanahan? Do we have to get rid of Lynch? So I think you're just getting ahead of it and being smart with it. And like Mike says, why even pay Brock Purdy? If your idea is like, hey, we're going to build through the draft, and most people believe that is going to be, hey, we're not going to be very good. We expect not to be very good. We're going to get some draft picks and we're going to develop. So do you want to develop with Brock Purdy on that price tag? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't even care. I wouldn't pay him.
I don't even know who their backup is. I have no idea who their backup is.
It doesn't matter, because if the game is building through the draft, we need to get the best draft pick. We get the best draft pick by being bad. Why not just let the next Bama go for the low and let this bum and not give him $300 million? You know what I'm saying? And look, I'm sorry, Brock Purdy. Look, hey, man, I'm sorry that you're not going to get the bag exactly that you wanted. But, dude, this is a business. And if you're saying we're going through the draft, I don't see, he's not a phenom. He's not a Josh Allen. He's not a Lamar. Shoot, yeah, he's not even a Dak Prescott. And really, if we're talking about physical prowess, who you are as a player, I mean, I'm just not paying him to do that. No.
Brock Purdy is an average quarterback. You know what? There's a lot of out there. There's a lot of average quarterbacks. Okay. And no disrespect, this guy's going to have a career in the league. He's made a name. He might not be a starter, but he's going to be in the league for years. Okay. I mean, he's a 6'1", 220-pound quarterback. That's not freakish numbers. He's not blazingly fast. He doesn't have the best cannon of an arm. He's obviously pretty intelligent because he's been in the league and he's stayed there. So, I mean, but he is not the end all be all. He is not, this isn't someone who, when he came out, was a no miss and, oh my God, we're going to throw everything we can at him.
No, there was a reason why he was available.
He's a serviceable quarterback with a great offensive-minded coach. Now, if he was playing for a team that had a defensive-minded coach, now I'm not picking on the Jets, but I just know Saleh, their former head coach, was a defensive guy. So I'm just
the guy they got now is a defensive guy.
Exactly. So someone like that with the Jets, would someone like a Brock Purdy with their skill set be as successful with a team in a defensive mindset than the 49ers? I don't think so. Maybe he'd be even better, but I don't think he would be. Someone like Shanahan can elevate a player like that to a level higher than their ability by working with a system around them.
Yeah. All right. So, fans, in segment 3, we're going to talk Aaron Rodgers. And we're going to see how his business have gone. And also, is the Super Bowl a bucket list item? We'll talk about that. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Keith Adams, and for years, I've witnessed the struggles student athletes face on how to truly balance the demands of academics and athletics. It's a question that I have dedicated my life to answering. That's why I wrote Finding the Balance, my personal journey to academic and athletic success. It's more than just a book. It is my personal journey, and it is filled with hard-earned lessons from decades as a coach, educator, and now president of the CKA Safe Project. Inside, you will find practical advice, real-life stories, and a clear roadmap to help student athletes, coaches, and parents navigate the complex world of balancing sports and education. And now I am thrilled to bring this message to a wider audience as a proud member of the Cascade Sports Network. We're partnering to amplify these crucial conversations about student athlete success. I believe every student athlete deserves the opportunity to reach their full potential, both on and off the court and the field. You can purchase your copy directly from our website at www.ckasafeproject.org. Join me and the Cascade Sports Network as we work together to help every student athlete succeed. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast, and in segment 3, Pittsburgh Steelers standing on business. Yeah, right. So the football world is awaiting Aaron Rodgers' decision. Heck, we come out on a Tuesday, so he might already be signed. But a lot of folks are getting impatient, and one of those people that got impatient was Cam Hayward. And on his latest podcast episode, he wasn't pleased with all of this. So, Will, as my team captain, you see what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. He can't hold you hostage if you don't let him. So what are you thinking about Aaron Rodgers, Cam Hayward's comments? Where's he going? What direction are you going in with this?
I think, on one hand, I think the Cam Hayward thing is separate than Aaron Rodgers himself. I think he's tired of the whole situation, to be honest with you. He's tired of Justin Fields. He's tired of Mason Rudolph. He's tired of Russell Wilson. And now you're talking about Aaron Rodgers. I think, if as a leader in the organization, or the team at least, it gets kind of frustrated. It's like, who are you going to be? I've been here. You had somebody different every year for the last 4 years. It's getting ridiculous. Like, it's getting ridiculous as a totality of it. I think Aaron Rodgers, he deserves the grace that, hey, if I show up on Friday from Pittsburgh, we have dinner. Hey, this is what we want to do. This is our philosophy. Come back to us. I'd give him, hey, you have a week, because the draft starts in a month, and Pittsburgh, they take, I think, like the 20 or 21st pick. So they're not. I don't know. They're going to have to reach on a guy if they want a quarterback that they want. But I think they're just taking their time. I think regardless, if Aaron Rodgers says, hey, we're gonna stay, then we'll go with them. If not, then unfortunately they go with Mason Rudolph, and they'll miss the playoffs, and they'll have a reason to let go of Mike Tomlin, and they can just move on and try something else. But that's what I think's gonna happen.
All right, Connors, what are you thinking? Aaron Rodgers, man, where are we with Aaron Rodgers right
now? I think the young man Cam Hayward is in a situation where he has been in a very stable environment. The Steelers are one of the most stable franchises in history. I think they've had 3 coaches since the 1960s. They're not used to a lot of change. They're not used to not having things set in stone. So I think that could be a little bit of a frustration for them after going through with Big Ben for years and years and years, and having him being the rock that they had to build on. So now I can see some frustration. And I think a lot of it has to do with Aaron Rodgers' personality. Never met the man, have heard him quite extensively in the media. As we all know, I live in the New York market, and he's been here for the last 2 years. He's an interesting dude. He has very outspoken opinions on a lot of things. He is not afraid to express his opinions. He's the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him, he'll tell you. And I'm not taking away from his intelligence, but some of the things he says, it's like, what? Not many athletes admit to going on vacations to take hallucinogenic drugs to experience different things. Not saying it's right, not saying it's wrong, but this cat's different than most athletes. I mean, you're talking about guys that sleep in hyperbaric chambers, monitor everything they put into their body. I mean, Tom Brady had a nutritionist who, when the guy got thrown out of the clubhouse, he decided to go to a different team, basically. So these guys live and breathe these health regimes, and and Aaron Rodgers does it a different way. Not saying it's wrong, but it's just different. And he is a very egotistical gentleman. I mean, when the Packers drafted Love, he was the first one to say, don't want him, not going to help him. He can ask me one question a week. I mean,
Ouch.
That's not the best teammate in the world. I mean, everyone has to experience the replacement coming in, especially in a league like the NFL, where if you're not competing, you're not going to be at your best. Okay?
Yeah.
So I think he's just a unique individual. I think in this world of 24/7 media coverage, he has no place to hide. He came into the Jets with big expectations. Now, he did get hurt the first year. Can't put that totally on him. But last year, he was not a standout player. He had a couple of flashes of goodness. I can't even call it greatness. But most of his appearances were pretty bad. And now he's holding a couple of different organizations hostage. He said he wanted to go to Minnesota. They have said they're going to move on. The Giants were holding out for him or something with him. They've gone a different way and signed a guy for 2 years for $8 million in Jameis Winston. And now the Steelers are saying we're going to wait on him. So I could see a player being frustrated.
All right. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. The next 3 Super Bowl locations are already spoken for. You got the San Francisco Bay Area in 2026. You got Los Angeles in 2027 and Hotlanta in 2028. But the Super Bowl's never been played in Nashville. So, Will, is going to a Super Bowl on your bucket list? And would you go to Nashville for the Super Bowl?
As any NFL fan, of course, the Super Bowl is on the bucket list. Gotta have it on there. I'm kind of one of those shunning away because I can't afford the tickets. So I'm like, puh! Like, I'm a real fan. I don't have to go. I can watch TV. Like, that's what they've been doing for 40 years and things like that. But I would go to Tennessee, man. I would go to Nashville, man. I mean, they have great food.
No vegetables. No vegetables.
It's man. Nobody's looking for that. Nobody's looking for that.
They think mac and cheese is a vegetable.
Yeah, right. Mashed potatoes. That's all we got. Mashed potatoes and French fries. But I think that's a great, that'd be a great experience. I think, the Music City, I believe it's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there as well.
No, that's in Cleveland.
That's in Cleveland.
Who's in that? Oh, the
country music. The Grand Ole Opry is in
Nashville. Oh man, they would eat it up, man. Shabuzi would do something. The young people would like it. We have the older team, the other generation who likes the older country.
You better get a second music. Song real quick.
Kenny Rogers, man, great guy. I think it would work, man. And it would also promote the states and bring in money for the states. Hey man, come to Nashville. Come to tennis. We're not just football too. We got food. We got venue. We have all this stuff. Come see, check it out. We got hockey. In my opinion, if you have a NBA team or if you have 2 major sport teams, you can at least get into the party of like we can host the Super Bowl. But if we were like Arkansas, like you ain't never getting Super Bowl. Don't even put your invite in the no RSVP for you. But I would be excited to go for Nashville, and hopefully it's not sexy, so maybe the tickets will be more available.
Okay,
palatable better.
Connors, would you go? One, you've probably been to a Super Bowl. With your undercover self. you go all kinds of random places, and you're like, hey, I was in London. Like what?
No, I would. I do not think I would enjoy going to a Super Bowl.
Okay.
I love the game. I love watching it, but I don't think I'd like being there in person. And Will, I'm sorry to tell you, Kenny Rogers died in 2020. I don't think he's going to make it to any appearances at a Super Bowl in
Hologram, but
Nashville.
now we do the hologram.
Oh, okay. We can have a hologram of him then. Hopefully pre-cosmetic surgeries that he had. But no, Nashville would. I love Nashville. I've been there twice in my life. Had a great
Peyton's
time
in
there.
Nashville. She's not too far away.
Who?
Sorry, Jenna.
Oh, geez. So, but no, it's a great city. They have the infrastructure, the hotels and everything like that would be. They have a couple of huge convention centers there and everything. That wouldn't be a problem. The weather, I was just looking up before. The average temperature there in January, February, high of 48. Low of 33. So
I think they got a dome, though, don't they?
That's what I'm saying. They're building a new stadium. Hopefully they're smarter than the New York Giants and New York Jets, who are in New York City and didn't build a dome, because that just would have been, spent over $1 billion on a stadium, but didn't put a roof on it. That just shows you the idiots running the organizations up here. But I think it would be a great city. I think it would be a good market for it. Like Will said, you could play that country up to it, and country is not just country anymore. It's not like just twang. As we know, there's been crossovers. Beyonce with her last album, it's a big seller right now.
And shout out to super producer Kelly. He is a country music DJ doing his country mix every week. Follow him on Facebook.
It's definitely marketable. That's not a problem to it. With the new stadium being built, I mean, I don't see why they would say no to it.
And they were realistic. They were like, oh yeah, like, man, give us 10 years. Give us I mean, dude, if you have a plan, and I think, but that would also be another hey, this is how you attract, the NFL.
Yeah, and the fans, I wouldn't want to go to LA for a Super Bowl, but Nashville might be a more appealing city because it's a manageable city. It's that's just my opinion. I think it would do a great job at it. But the NFL has their set way of they have about 8 places that they rotate between. No, and that's not a dig. I mean, they want warm weather or a dome. You got to have decent weather. I mean, you can't have it in Minnesota every year because you never know if they're going to have 4 feet of snow or not. That's just the way it is. I mean, Indianapolis, they host the combine there and everything. They have a big, beautiful dome. But again, you could get 4 feet of snow. Okay. Right. New York, like we said, the cultural mecca of New York City, dumbasses didn't put a dome in. So it's an open stadium. They had it once. They'll never have it again.
Right.
I mean, so LA, New Orleans with their dome, Atlanta, Florida. I mean, Miami. Where would you rather play, Miami or Green Bay? In January. Yeah, Green Bay's nostalgic, but let's be honest. If you're going to sell those corporate tents, you don't want to put all those heaters in them.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, fans, as we close, it's a special week for the Odd Coaches podcast. This week, we celebrate our 600th episode. So, we've been talking about the NFL every week for 3 years now. So, I really do feel comfortable talking about the NFL, and we're going to modify our things strictly for entertainment purposes only. But on a personal note, I'm glad that our show continues to grow and expand because I get to talk to Connors again on a regular basis. So, fans, Mike and I used to work together. I was his supervisor, whatever that means. And Mike King, who's on often, Brian Bobian, who's on often. We were all in the same department. So, how much actually got done? So, Mike, 1, thank you for being a regular. And 2, any thoughts about this experience? Who would have had that on our bingo card?
Yeah, Keith, thank you. I have enjoyed this much more than I ever thought I would. I mean, you reached out to me with trying to keep your phone book updated, saying, is this still you, Connors? And that fell into me that Sunday being with y'all on the podcast. And I've listened to Joe Rogan for a long time, but no other real podcasts. So I was like, I kind of know what this is, but I've really enjoyed it. I think it's great. It's a good way to sound off. It's a good way to keep myself. I don't do the fantasy sports, so this is a good way for me to keep myself up to date on when I make phone calls on Sunday morning on how to do things. So I think it's been great. I really enjoy it. And thank you for letting me be a part of the family again.
All right. And of course, Captain for Life is not a joke. Whenever I need to find something out. Hey, Will, what's going on with, let me tell you. By the way, our boy, root for him. Anyway, so it's good to have you on the show. Any thoughts as we round into 600? Heck, I think you've been on 300 of them, Will.
Yeah, I've been on a good amount of them, man. I was there when it was just a listener back in the day, closed off, as I would say. Nah, but it's been great. It's been great. It's mentally, it's been great, especially for a lot of sports fans that you've known throughout the years, and kind of like go off on their different topics and things that they would only talk to like a couple people about. It's like, hey, now I got six guys that I can talk to, and I can talk loud and not disrespectfully, and we can like have a real conversation about it. And I get to meet so many different, Mike, great, both Mikes, amazing stuff like that. Robert, obviously, my man, G, I gotta be, it's really great time to come through and talk to each other and because there was a long time, Coach, we didn't talk for like a solid like decade or something like that.
Real life gets in the way, man.
Oh,
real life is real.
Yeah. So reconnecting, man, has been really cool, and then it's been one of I promote it all the time. So everybody be like, "Oh, you're on a podcast?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "Man, for real? All right, send me that thing." So,
he's fire on TikTok, fans. He's fire on TikTok. All right. So on behalf of our cavalcade of stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and/or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network. Shout out to all of our fans in Kansas City, and we'll see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.